Hey people, how you doing? We're live. Welcome to the STA Clinician podcast, formerly known for the last 5 years as the Sports Therapy Association podcast. My name is Matt Phillips, creator of RunChatLive.com. And as always, this episode is being recorded live on the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel and Facebook page at 8 p.m. UK time on a Tuesday. So with the start of a new month, April 2026, comes a new focus. And this month, the focus is going to be common frustrations for MSK clinicians. Very shortly, I'm going to be joined by special guest Imi Testa, who is the owner of Back on Track Soft Tissue Therapy, and Jo Turner of 𝐕_𝐻𝐿.𝐂𝐥𝐻. Imi and Jo are going to be revealing a couple of the biggest frustrations within their MSK healthcare careers, including the all too often polarized debate over what is good posture and the idea that maintenance massage is just a luxury. Before then, I must give a thank to my guests last week in episode 279, Collaboration, Therapy Show 2026 and Beyond. I was joined by representatives from the three main professional membership bodies representing sports therapists in the UK. So from the Society of Sports Therapists, the SST, their head of education joined me, Kate Williams. From the Sports Therapy Organisation, their chair, Sarah Catlow, joined me. And from the Sports Therapy Association, STA, its founder, Gary Benson, joined me. And together, my wonderful guests reflected on what's in store at this year's Therapy Show, formerly known as Therapy Expo, taking place at the NEC in Birmingham this November, 25th and 26th, and how through collaboration of the SST, STO and STA, we can help move forwards the sports therapy industry forwards and upwards. It's a cracking episode, I always say that, but it really is well worth a listen if you're a sports therapist in particular, highlighting opportunities for unified messaging, better accreditation and training, the protection of patients, and of course support for practitioners. Available as always on YouTube and all popular podcast apps. Right then, back to tonight's episode, part one of Common Frustrations for MSK Clinicians, with my special guests Imi Testa, owner of Back on Track Soft Tissue Therapy, and Jo Turner, founder of 𝐕_𝐻𝐿.𝐂𝐥𝐢𝐬. Let's bring them up. Hello, Imi Testa, and hello, Jo Turner.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I am very well.
I'm here.
Fantastic. You're here. That's fine. Stage one completed. Thanks so much, as always, for giving up your time this evening. Really appreciate it. If you have joined us live, people, then I'll just say hello to you as well before I forget about you and immerse myself totally into the Imi and the Jo show. If you do have questions for Imi or Jo, then do feel free to bring them up on the screen. If you do that, then I can read them out. For example, Nikki Mansfield has said, "Evening all, is this an extra long session so we can cover all our frustrations?" Asking for a friend. Nikki, no, I can guarantee we will not be covering all frustrations. That would be another 257 episodes, I'm sure. But we'll get through two ones which I'm sure will tickle your fancy. So Glenn Murphy is with us as well, saying good evening all. Thank you very much for joining us, Glenn. Good to see you as always. And other people are coming through the room. It's a great way of saying hi and networking, so don't feel embarrassed. If you want to, just say hi, just put something and I'll bring it up on the screen for you. And like I say, if you've got questions, then do feel free to add them in the comments. Right then, common frustrations for MSK clinicians. As Nikki has kind of alluded to already, Nikki Mansfield, nice segue. It can be a frustrating career, can't it? Both of you, I'm sure, you have been in the industry for quite a long time. Imi, for you, ever got frustrated with what you chose as a profession?
Not at my choice, I suppose. I get sometimes frustrated at how my profession is perceived or valued. But no, I like what I do. I love what I do. Yeah.
This wasn't what I was expecting at all. I was
were you expecting
things out? Yeah, really, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's really nice. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Actually, before I forget, could you let people know? I always presume that so many people know you because you've been on the show before, and you're a solid member of the ST School and the Hands-on Public Therapy Expo, and people have seen you talk on other occasions. But for people who don't know who you are and what you do and where you are in the country, could you give us a short little introduction?
So I am a soft tissue therapist and newly qualified pelvic Christ practitioner, and I have a clinic in Wickwar, which is in South Gloucestershire, not too far from Jo Turner.
Very nice.
Anything else? Yeah, I did.
No, that's great. It's a great segue. You're doing a great job. It takes us straight to Jo Turner. Jo Turner, before you tell us who you are, ever get frustrated with healthcare?
Never. Probably like Imi, I'm a naturally quite sanguine person, but yeah, I would say I get daily frustrations, other than with myself, and we can talk more in the episode about how that plays out. You're getting cross with yourself rather than your patient. I think my biggest frustrations are probably due to having been in the profession 30 years now, being quite old, and feeling like arguments go round and round and round. And honestly, some of the biggest ones are ones that I was relatively excited about as a young clinician, and I'm less excited as they come around for the third or fourth time in my career.
That's a really interesting point. It is true. And it's interesting how people can react to that. It's almost like the people who manage to survive it have got this really valuable information in their minds and this knowledge that things come and go, and don't get too excited about the latest thing. But it kind of means you've got to keep seeing it again and again and again. But hey, anyway, and for people who don't know where you are, Jo, and what you do in healthcare, could you let us know?
Yep, so as Imi said, I'm also based in Gloucestershire. I co-own a couple of clinics, one in Gloucestershire, one in Wiltshire. I'm a physio of nearly 30 years. I'm also a coach, and 𝐒𝐴𝐵 is a separate company to my clinics. It's ostensibly a coaching company, but also offers courses and a podcast and a community, and its general essence is about health and well-being of clinicians rather than focusing on clinical work.
Excellent, fantastic. And Imi, you can vouch for the wonderful
Yes.
results that you can get from coaching by Jo Turner, can't you?
Yeah, I had some great coaching. I was really at a bit of a crossroads. Oh, well, there we go. I guess I was a bit frustrated with what I did. I was at a crossroads with how to progress in my practice and my professional life. And yeah, Jo was amazing and helped me consolidate my thoughts without telling me what to do. She drew it from me. And yeah, and here I am with new things happening and new directions to go to.
Imi was an amazing coachee with, she's given me permission to share her caffeinated squirrels analogy, which I hope you don't mind, Imi, I have quoted and reused that with other clients. Imi described her head as, at any one time, there were, is it up to 7 or more than that, Imi?
Many.
There was up to a certain number of caffeinated squirrels jumping around, all with a great assertion that what they need to tell me is the most important thing in that moment.
Nice metaphor. Clients use the best metaphors, don't they?
Absolutely.
So cool. No, it's really cool. We've talked of quite a few episodes about there's abundance of how to make yourself a better practitioner, how to do these extra courses with your hands and do things to your patients and just look after your patient, and more ways to look after your patient. And Jo, you do just stand out as probably one of, definitely it was the first introduction I had to somebody who's going, hold on a second, how about looking after yourself as the clinician? Because before you look after yourself, and you've been on the show before with wonderful Joanne 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿 as well, just saying if you're not looking after yourself, how can you hope to give all that love and attention and positive energy to your clients? So yes, 𝐒𝐵. Check it out, people, 𝐒𝐵.co.uk. And I'm sure this is going to tie in with what we're talking about tonight. So we've narrowed it down. As Nikki kind of said, there's a lot of frustrations, especially when you've been in the industry a while. Chances are you learned stuff originally on a course that maybe needed to be a little bit black and white in order to just get the immense amount of information to you. And then you're going to be hit a little bit with, that's not quite what we said, or you're going to have to change that a little bit. Not totally, but we're going to have to tweak it a little bit. And that definitely takes a depth of character and piece in order to process all of that. So we've picked 2, which I think are a great couple, and they were based on basically Imi Testa, without making head too big. You inspired this whole month because you produced some fantastic pieces on Hands-on Hub in February, and they kind of labelled a couple of frustrations, which I thought, right, we've got to do a whole show about this, which is what we did. So I'm going to bring them up with your permission, of course. The first one, which I believe was on February the 23rd. And this was talking about people, in case you're not sure on the podcast, it's a Facebook group called the Hands-on Hub. A brilliant place. It came out of kind of the ST school with Anna Maria Mazzieri, and the Hands-on Hub is a wonderful group, well known probably for being at Therapy Expo as well, as a hands-on area within the show where people were really getting a chance to learn through putting their hands on, seeing other people putting their hands on, and which is a great way of learning. And now there's the Hands-On Hub private group on Facebook. So I encourage you to look out for that if you are a healthcare clinician. And you don't even have to be hands-on, just to understand a little bit more about the people you work with or the people you might be referring to. So back in then, the 23rd of February, there was a fantastic article called Why I've Changed My Mind, again on posture, kind of. And I think Imi got the normal kind of 20 messages saying, can I share this on my web page, Imi? And Imi was like, why is everybody bothering me saying I want to share this thing? Just getting my thoughts down. But it's great. So to introduce that then, Imi, do you remember what made you suddenly think about that? Why posture? What made you that day write this rather long, wonderfully long, post on posture?
Yeah, one of the reasons, again, going back to my ADHD, was I was trying to avoid doing something I really needed to do. I was in major procrastination. So, and I kind of think sometimes when I write these things, it's kind of a therapy for me. So linking back to, to my time with Joe, and instead of getting frustrated or instead of just getting reactive, which I can do, if I write things down, it makes me then reflect more and to be more, stand back and be a bit more curious about why I'm feeling about something, and sort of collate all my thoughts on it and make links to other thoughts. And so in a way, it's a kind of reflective practice. And some of them don't make it out into the public, and some of them do, and that was one that I just kind of, because Hands-On Hub always feels like a really safe space to say these things. That I wouldn't have necessarily posted that in other spaces, so I thought it might be a useful one, so I pressed send quickly before I changed my mind, and that was it.
It's an interesting point. I want to talk, before we look at the content of it itself, it's so interesting you say that, because it can be so good to get your thoughts out to peers and colleagues, but it needs to be a safe place, doesn't it? And normally on social media, it's probably the worst place to hang your washing out, because you just can get people just shouting at you, strangers coming in. It's a public domain in most places. So what was it about, this isn't a commercial for the Hands-On Hub, but what is it about that particular Facebook group that makes you feel that, let people see all of this? Is it because you know everybody in there, or?
Partly that, I think, but I think partly because I guess most people in there have some sort of association with Anna Maria, and so we've all maybe come from a similar background of learning, and maybe it's a bit of a bubble. Maybe that's not such a good thing, but I guess we all kind of are quite open to thinking about certain things, and maybe have thought other things in the past and have changed our minds. So I don't know, it's a place where you can maybe be like, I had this thought, is that okay? I don't know, and it feels safer. But I'm not sure why. Maybe Joe knows why certain spaces feel safer than other spaces.
Well, I think what you just said, actually, Imi, highlights one of my frustrations, that often our profession doesn't feel like a place where you can go, I'm thinking this, do you think that's all right? It's there seems to be a lot of this is my opinion, or this is my wisdom, and it being sort of put up there for people to either be in awe of, or agree with, or massively aggressively disagree with. But I think the more spaces there are where you can just do exactly what you just said, so I'm not sure about this, but I'm putting it out there for discussion, is really healthy. And I guess that's one of my frustrations, that there are less places like that, or not as many as I would perhaps like. Do I think that's why you posted it there? I've no idea, Imi. I imagine that that's probably a fairly likely reason. We need to feel safe, don't we, if we're going to put our tender thoughts out there.
I think you're right. There are spaces where there's, an opinion is stated, and anyone who is unsure or who questions it, instead of having a conversation and being curious and using some of the skills that I learned on your course, Matt, of how to ask a question to find out more rather than just to shoot someone down. It can be quite aggressive and people are just shot down and laughed at, and so that would not be a safe space. But I think if you do that, you don't foster curiosity in other people. You just make them feel horrible about themselves and against you, instead of thinking, well, actually, hang on a minute, that's quite interesting. Maybe there's another side to this, and that curiosity can lead to change. So I think it's lovely to have spaces where people can say anything, and it's okay. There's a conversation to be had rather than just being shot down.
It's interesting as well, because it always makes me think that we should all be experts of this, because this is how we should be treating patients. We should be greeting them with a totally open mind, no judgment, to create that, that safe space for them to open up and speak in. But therapists seem to be the first to actually, maybe it's just a release. Maybe they're so tired of doing it during the day, they just need to get it out, this kind of anger. But you would have thought we'd have been great at it. But anyway, another thought.
But
Right,
also,
okay.
also Matt, being open to creating a space where patients can question us as well without it feeling threatening. Just say, oh no, actually that isn't quite my experience of this injury, and for us to just go, okay, great. I mean, hopefully most of us do, but sometimes that isn't the space, is it? It's I'm going to ask you questions and you're going to give me some answers, then I'll give you my wisdom. Perhaps I'm being unfair. I'm sure there are loads of clinicians listening who create that safety, but I'm not sure how many patients often feel safe questioning a healthcare professional or adding their own opinion in, unless it's very explicitly asked for.
How many just go along with what they've said and then go home and ignore it because they haven't felt safe enough to put caveats or say, well, actually, that's not quite how I was feeling, or they're being polite.
Yeah.
But this is where, it always makes me think of 𝐼𝐸, because he's just a master at it. But this is where I think there are some skills which clinicians need to learn, which don't come naturally. Like, sometimes we think that we're showing empathy by asking question after question and kind of repeating what they say back, and when really just them saying something and having that silence and just body language of giving them permission to continue just opens a totally different door, doesn't it, of conversation, and probably something they haven't had for ages. They're expecting to be interviewed. When you just stop and don't say anything, which can be really hard for some people, and then almost in their brain they're going like, wow, this person's actually listening to me, this person's allowing me to keep talking, which is such a starter, isn't it? So yes, it's amazing. Anyway, right, so posture. It is an interesting topic, isn't it? It's been going round and round and round. It is one of those things which I think, Joe, you were referring to, of backwards and forwards and different ideas, different gurus, and then the guru normally admits that they were slightly wrong, but it's too late. The t-shirt's been printed and the DVD's out, and But in a nutshell, then, Imi, I mean, you say it introducing the post, but for people who haven't read the post, what's the traditional? You mentioned that there was originally CPD way back in the day. You learned a certain kind of idea about posture. What was it, and how did it change once you investigated a little bit?
So I remember being on courses and trying to sort of, whether things were sort of a millimetre higher than a millimetre lower, and on ASIS or the sort of Jander's cross thing, and sitting up straight and not slouching, and and all of those things, and then I went through the whole sort of anti that, and I think that's kind of what started the post. Tris posted up his annual. Haven't done clean from assessing posture, and I'm not dissing Tris at all. I get what he was doing in that post, and I agree with him. He was making a stand against the people who were potentially still very with an old-fashioned narrative, looking at correct and incorrect posture and micromanaging the biomechanics of posture. But I wanted to have a different viewpoint on it. And during my Feldenkrais training, I remember at the start, there was talk of posture, and I can remember sitting at the back I mean, hopefully not too obviously, although I think I probably failed, rolling my eyes going, oh my God, I've just signed up for 4 years and here we are talking about posture. What have I done? And actually my mind was very much changed because they reclaimed the word posture. They weren't talking about a right or wrong, but just a way of, in that moment, moving yourself. And that what they quite often referred to instead was organisation. So how you've chosen to organise yourself, whether that's in stillness or in movement, in that moment, for whatever reason, you've chosen to organise yourself in a certain way. And that is what they would call posture. And they wouldn't put a right or wrong on it, and they wouldn't label it as anything, but to simply be curious about, I wonder why they've chosen that. And there might be 100 different reasons why. And it's just that curiosity rather than, putting people in boxes. I think that was where the article came from.
Jo, in your years of physiotherapy, you must have seen different ideas and approaches to people coming in and assessing people's posture. What do you think of when you think of the word posture?
Well, I think my history with posture is probably similar to Imi's. And yeah, I remember going on all those courses and lying through my teeth that I could see millimetre differences on certain things, and actually feeling deeply uncomfortable with that, because my husband always teases me and says I have a truth chip and I can't tolerate like even micro untruths. And that definitely was maybe not a frustration, but a source of quite a lot of internal discomfort when I was younger, that I felt like I was constantly saying, yes, I can see this, and oh yes, I can appreciate that, and my mind's going bullshit all the time, and I didn't enjoy that at all. Yes, we were taught there was good posture, and there was ideal posture that our treatments and our exercise programs should be aiming for, this kind of golden ideal. Imi, I hadn't heard that sort of explanation of organising yourself, but I love it, and it completely ties in with my nearly 30 years now of teaching. I don't mind saying I've been teaching Pilates for 30 years, and I don't mind because I've morphed Pilates into something that really makes sense to me now. And when I'm teaching it, I'm constantly reorganising. I think I'm sort of feeling and verbalising the reorganisation that's going on in my body, and I do describe it that way as well. I often remind people who are as old as me about the Transformer toys. Do you remember those toys that were cars, and then you rearrange them into Optimus Prime or something like that? And to me, that's what that organising posture feels like. The kind of you're finding bits of your body and you're making adjustments, and you're noticing the effect of moving one part of your body and then the response of another part. And I mean, when the word posture was, I'm not going to say first brought about, but posture doesn't have to have the word good or bad in front of it, does it? A posture is just a posture, and there's no judgment within that word. It's a position, I guess, is what I would interpret it as. And I love that idea of organising parts of yourself into a certain posture, and then playing with organising a different way, or searching for a different way of feeling or being. I really like that.
Just opening up more options, so that would be opening up more options. So it's fine, it's fine to slouch, as long as you can choose different options at different times that are suitable for when you want to do different things. So it's just that sort of optimization, I guess. And in the moment, there are times where it's useful to be very small and crouchy, so there's no right or wrong.
Yeah, and I remember in my early days of physio finding myself frequently saying to people that certain postures will probably just feel right, and sometimes they will aesthetically look better, the ones that feel good, not always. But I think there is this idea that, and I noticed myself most strongly after coming back from maternity leave, when my body had changed a lot and felt very different. And then when I started getting fitter again, I just noticed that I was holding myself in a way that felt more comfortable and more happy. And that was a useful, that was a posture. Probably I was adopting a different posture, but for me it was all about that it felt better.
But you notice, I think that's the key. The key is being aware of what you're choosing.
Right.
In that, if you're not aware and it's become habitual, then you don't know that you're doing it. How do you know whether it's the most useful one? So that is useful, sort of being able
Yeah.
to notice, oh, actually, is this good for me right now? Does this feel comfortable? Or could there be a better way? So it's when you are not aware of what you're doing, and it becomes, it becomes habitual, and it becomes, part of that predictive processing model. That's when it's maybe not so useful. And I think, Jo, you mentioned that there was an emotional sort of side to your change. You felt better. That's the other thing. And another one of my frustrations, that it's not just biomechanical, it's not just the body, it's ourself and how we're feeling. If we're feeling sad or tired or scared or not confident, or on the opposite side, all of those, the thing that politicians do, the sort of power pose, or it can be very much linked to how we're feeling inside, and we're projecting that through, ourselves. We move through the world, sense making. It's us. It's not a body and a brain and an emotion. It's all us. So that can be reflected past experiences, your mood, all of that in a messy sort of way is part of posture. It's not just muscles and bones and how you use them.
I think the thing we're all agreeing is posture is not something to be held up as, this is what we're aiming for, and we'll just keep tweaking everything until we get there. And until you get there, you're not right. I think we all, most of us these days, reject that idea. But I really like your idea of bringing awareness. And that's one of our main jobs as a therapist, isn't it? To bring awareness to something that someone perhaps hasn't been aware of for a little while. And as you say, it's that unconscious side, which may or may not be associated directly with pain, but if it's unconscious, then it can't be changed, and our job is to bring consciousness to it.
And are we so obsessed with this sort of perfection because, there are links to sort of sport and elite athletes, and so to optimize like power and endurance in sport, then you are looking a little bit more maybe that way. But with the general population, maybe, I don't know.
I'd pass that one to Matt.
I'd pass that one to Matt. Is it because of our history, certainly with, sports massage or sports therapy, where we've got that link to sort of trying to optimize?
I think, I suspect it boils down to this chasing symmetry. It definitely, although, Jo, a lot of us in the places we move in understand that we shouldn't be chasing this norm, this anatomical norm like the poster. But I think, and Imi, you'll be aware of this, and so many courses, particularly, I don't know what it's like in physiotherapy, but I know, so many traditional courses out there for sports massage therapy, and sports therapy, they're still, the first thing you do if a client comes in with neck pain or shoulder pain, have they got level shoulders? If they haven't, then we're going to teach you some techniques to give them level shoulders. At no stage do they just gloss over the fact that there's going to be people who have got unlevel shoulders who are not in pain, and there's going to be people with level shoulders who are in pain. That's just ignored. It's not even a conversation on these courses. It's like, wow, they've walked in with one shoulder lower. Right, this is what you can do here. This technique. And you know what? After 20 minutes of doing it, measure them again, put the 2 pencil marks on the wall, and they'll be even. And the chances are that person will be even, because you can kind of change temporarily muscle length. Even just the belief that they're going to be better is probably changes their posture, which probably links into their emotion as opposed to what you've done with your hands. But then guess what? Once they walk out again and start getting stressed out or doing whatever they're doing, they're going to be. So I think it's that belief, isn't it? And if anyone is listening, because I'm really, really conscious that there could be therapists who literally have been told today or last week or finished their course, and most of the course was based on chasing symmetry. I'm not going to take this on board now. I'm going to ask my wonderful guests, Imi and Jo, what they would say to a therapist now who's listening, going, but if you're not looking for symmetry, then what do you do? And this person is getting nervous already listening to us. So do they have to
You
stop
can,
everything they've learned, or
no, you can still be curious. Just be curious. Literally be curious. So instead of saying, oh, this means this or this means that, well, they are doing that. They might be moving in a certain way. I wonder, we can ask them, why do you think you're moving in a certain way? And maybe it becomes clear as time goes on, and you can give them different options for moving and see. So how does this, now you've moved in this way as opposed to that way, what feels better for you? Like Jo, when she came back from maternity leave, she said, oh, it felt better. So you're just giving people lots of options for doing the same thing, and seeing if any of them, how does that feel now? Does that feel better, the worse? How is it to do this thing now we've done that? Was that useful to you? So just being a lot more, so vague is not the word, is it? A lot more open, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's fine to comment on things and, say stick with the asymmetric shoulders. I am noticing your left shoulder's higher than your right. That may mean nothing, or maybe you don't want to say it. Maybe you ask them, say, is there anything you notice? And okay, my left shoulder's higher. Does that feel like it's part of this problem? Do you think? Don't know. I think it's always been like that. Just having, as Imi says, a conversation rather than the sort of unquestioned belief that symmetry is everything. My brain always goes off on overly philosophical tangents, but we chase symmetry in everything, don't we? I mean, you do a piece of artwork as a child and you're trying to get it symmetrical, and all those studies that babies prefer symmetrical faces, and it seems quite a human thing, doesn't it? Is it symmetry, or is it we don't like difference? Who knows? But difference seems to be, it's not just symmetry in our world, is it? It's something that is different to something that we've decided is the good thing.
Yeah, I wonder if it just goes back to the same as everything. It's threat perception, isn't it? If something's not as expected, then there's a dissonance there, and that immediately sparks a little bit of it challenges that prediction of how we expect something to be. So straight away we maybe notice it, or I don't know.
Yeah, we make a definite causal link. Something is different and something is wrong. Therefore, the thing that's different must be causing the thing that's wrong.
It rapidly becomes something very philosophical.
Sorry.
Which is why we have people like Matt Lowe on the show. No, it's an important thing. A lot of these questions
we could get worse than that, I'm sure. Yeah.
But it is true. But yeah, so if you're listening to this, then looking for symmetry, fair enough, but don't assume that symmetry is going to be the route to all of your patient losing their pain or anything. And like Imi said,
it might be a really useful way of moving differently that is really serving them a purpose. The classic somebody who's got a disc herniation and they're off to one side. In that moment, that is serving a really useful purpose for them. Maybe not 5 years down the road, but so sometimes it's a useful thing. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's so true. And I think the nice thing about getting rid of that is then you can spit Bruce Lee, isn't it, in nature? Although I'm sure it wasn't his idea, but once you empty the glass of this water, you can fill it with other stuff up. But until you empty the glass, then all you're doing is just trying to cram stuff on top of this false premise. So it's, well, look, half an hour posture, I think that's pretty good. Anything else you'd like to say about posture? I'm just looking through to what you said in your post, Imi, other stuff you said. We've covered the fact I'm always fascinated with emotion and posture. Now, obviously, not everybody with forward shoulders has got forward shoulders because they're stressed or tense, or because they're, I don't know, a young female who's embarrassed of her body change and everything, and they're naturally defending against there. But in so many cases, I think things like that are ignored, and we think it's because they've got, tight pectoralis, so I spend all our time on this, and they've got weak trapezius muscles, and we need to kind of strengthen them. And really, someone can change their posture depending on how they feel. This is where we come in, having that conversation.
It's another frustration.
It's a big frustration, isn't it? Because a lot of do get missed.
This is another podcast entirely, really, but this is another frustration that predominantly still, we talk about the biopsychosocial model, we all say we do it, and I think it's environmental now as well. We say we do it, but we don't really. We still very much focus on the biomechanics. We don't have enough thought to, we don't have enough training on, all those other elements, the psychosocial elements and the environment in which we live, which also is part of that. And we always immediately go straight for that bio, because that's what we've been taught. There's not enough education in the other stuff, which I've done a little bit of learning around sort of psychology and philosophy, and starting to delve into sociology. Joe made me buy a book, forced me to buy a book. So
Which I haven't read.
I've read nearly all of it.
Which
I'm starting to look. So that's a whole area I feel I know nothing about, but is hugely important, and can really impact all of these things. So that is probably another episode, but why we only still really, and we separate all of them as well. Not only do we not learn enough about some of them, we still separate them out.
Do you think it's a problem that we all three of us, trained in professions, their names are about physical things, and with the greatest of intentions, when we went into them, we were interested in physical things, and in a postgrad situation, we've learned that we're supposed to be incorporating psycho and social elements, but at the heart of it, is, and again, this is a much bigger question, but how can you ever completely come away from the fact that you were trained in one lane of a three-way motorway? You can acknowledge the other two, but you're constantly reminded not to go out of your scope of practice. Where that boundary is really hard to judge. And then at the same time, the expectation on you to have quite a high level of awareness is increasing. And, we all, most of us accept that we're better therapists when we do acknowledge those things. And then there's the psychologists who were taught in the other lane of the motorway. And I've heard that psychologists are often quite envious that we have a remit to use touch, because they appreciate how important that is. And there's lots of us trying to shed that privilege. It does seem a bit of a crazy thing that so many people start still so defined, and yet we all know that healthcare needs to be a much more combined effort.
Yeah, I can't remember who I was telling this to, but I had, if I could wave a magic wand and change how we're all educated, that everybody would do like a foundational level 5 that encompassed all of that broad spectrum, learning about psychology, anthropology, sociology, and the environment, everything, along with maybe a basic A&P. There'd be this foundational level where we all learnt it. So also fostering understanding between the professions, and then you would go off and specialise in your certain thing, and that would be your degree level. And I think it would enable us to all to come from a common ground. We would maybe respect each other more, or we would understand all of those aspects a little bit more. But we start off already in the motorway lane instead of starting off, oh God, I'm going down a hole of trying to think of an analogy now, in the service station, all together in the service station. We start off on those quite narrowly defined lanes, and we're peopling. At the end of the day, we're all peopling. We're all trying to help people, support people. We just come into it maybe with different contexts. I always love Anna Maria's thing about massage being the context for the therapy happening, and the same. So for a physiotherapist, it's movement or strength, and for someone else, it's using language or speaking. So we're just using different contexts for supporting people.
So are you describing Imi like a broad, rather than all training in specialities and then trying to absorb the broadness of it?
We do a year of peopling.
Train broad. Yeah.
A year of peopling, and then special.
And you choose which bit really floats your boat, and if you like, what context you want to use then to access people.
Yeah, and for those who want to stay vocational, they can just do this initial level, and everyone else can. But that's it's never going to happen. But that would be my magic wand.
And medic
Nice
suits.
ideas.
Sorry, Matt, I'll let you get a question in a minute. But
No, it's up to you.
my
Talk.
I mean, it strikes me that medical training is a bit more like that. That they learn medicine and then they go off and do a speciality.
Yeah.
And their I suppose their medical training could probably do with a lot more of their.
That they could probably do with a little bit more psychosocial as well. If I'm honest.
Yeah.
I think we all could, really. Yeah.
Fantastic. Right, we've got some lovely comments. We've got the guests thinking. Oh, the guests. Sorry, they are our guests. They've got our guests, the people who have joined us live. They're having a nice little think. So Stuart Sahan has mentioned and said, thanks for leaving the comment. Stuart says, my take on posture is the only bad one is the one you stay in for too long. Note to self, move more. No, it's not an April Fool. Great podcast, many thanks. Thanks, Stuart. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yes, the best posture is the next posture. That was always quite a nice kind of idea, wasn't it? Apart from when you've got somebody who can't move much, and then you're kind of implying to them that they're stuffed. And there's plenty of people in a wheelchair who don't move much, and they're not necessarily suffering because of their posture. But anyway, it's a nice idea for a lot of clients. Nikki Mansfield says, my light bulb moment on posture came when I realised we haven't agreed on the definition of posture. For me, it's dynamic. The EBP fascists assumed it was static. That disconnect hurt my brain. Yeah, it's nice when we get away from that static idea, isn't it? Which none of us are in for very long, really. We're always kind of moving around and twisting. I like this from Jessica Janneman as well. Jess says, so much of my actor training was adopting a posture and then seeing how that made you feel, look at the world, breathe to form a character. Yes. I often think that now as a massage therapist, it's still a useful thing to do, to understand how the client is moving through the world. That's really nice. Jess.
Jessica, I have a book for
really
you to
nice.
read as well. There's a book by Victoria Worsley that you would love. Feel free to message me and ask.
These will be in the links, of course.
Yeah,
the Imi reading book list will be there.
Yeah, on my library.
And why just says to understand that person as a whole person, if you see what I mean. We do see what you mean, Jessica. It's a lovely way of putting it.
That's lovely, really
how
lovely.
The client is moving through the world. That's really nice. We're just going to take some questions. And Nikki Mansfield's come back. We'd love this idea. Great. Okay, wonderful reflections. We're going to squeeze in the other post that you did, which was only about 4 days later. You on a roll.
My dog's come in and opened the door.
Go for it. That's fine. No, that's no problem at all. The other one, which Imi shared shortly after, about 4 or 5 days after, was why maintenance massage isn't a luxury. Okay, and this was shared again in the Hands-On Hub. And I think it was in reaction to somebody who's going to be on the show in 3 weeks' time, who did suggest, it was Tristan. We can say Tristan's Attenborough's name. That's fine. We love Tristan.
It makes me sound that everything I write is
only he thinks that. It's fine. We know it's not. Only he thinks that you wake up in the morning thinking, right, what's Tristan written today? I'm going to.
Because I agree with him, but I just want to.
Of course, you're definitely both on the same page. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. But no, it was nice because it was just to use that word, and later on he followed it up and it kind of said, yes, it depends how you define the word luxury. But it was a really interesting point that you came out of it, because I think a lot of clients do get this idea that massage is a bit of a luxury and I've got something else I could spend my money on. I don't deserve that sort of thing, which is a real shame, because you came up with some amazing examples of how when massage is not a luxury and it shouldn't be regarded as a luxury. So you said, you started off the post kind of saying, yes, if you go to a spa and it's like a birthday, you made some spill the tea reference to a program I haven't watched. What was it, Broadchurch or something, or was it
Bridgerton?
Yeah, I had no idea. It went way over my head. I had no idea what that was. I just kept reading on.
It's like Broadchurch with more bustles.
Oh, really? Oh, that's why my wife watches it. Okay, that's fair enough. But then you pointed out, when someone comes to you because they're in pain, stressed, anxious, burnt out, exhausted, very emotive in me as always, not on top form, want to maximise their sport or indeed their life, our support becomes healthcare. And that's what I think annoyed you or frustrated you about the use of the word or the idea that massage is a luxury. Would you care to expand on that, Imi?
Yeah, I see it a lot, though. The trouble is when you start looking, my algorithm seems to send me various massagey things, and someone, as their tagline on their Instagram thing, said, "I don't do fluff." And this was somebody I think I wrote another post at some point about scraping and cupping. It was one of those people who sort of scrapes people till they bleed. And I don't do fluff. I do fluff, and I'm proud of it. Fluff is great. Because this again, this perception that, and I think a lot of us get stuck in between, that kind of therapist who does things to people in order to physically break down tissues, all of that. And then if it's not that, then it's fluff and woo woo and not does immaterial. And in between, I like to think is me, where which I'm neither of those things. But I think we get sort of stuck with these sort of polarizing labels, and there's a vast swathe of people in the middle just trying to do good, simple work that get labeled, with that, or people don't understand that it can have value in different ways. Yeah. It's not, there's one of my other frustrations that it's not always valued because it gets perceived as either being fluffy or out of date.
Says a lot about attitudes, doesn't it? This idea of indulgence, luxury, I don't deserve it, I think that was the phrase you used, Matt. Says a lot about sort of what we think we are worth, and also a lot of judgment around, and I bet there is quite a bit of subconscious judgment around people who do value themselves enough to seek something, maybe just because it feels good. Or I think Jack did a podcast, didn't he, Jack Chu, a couple of years ago, about because it feels good, and then challenging that is a bad thing. But Imi was lovely and bigged up my coaching. I'm a client of Imi's, and I'm not sure that I consciously articulate why I choose to go and see Imi, but it's a very conscious thing when I do it, and I want to feel the way Imi's interventions make me feel. And I think it almost goes back to this organizing your body. I find with a really intuitive therapist like Imi, I can work out a lot of stuff that's going on for me, and I can sort of reorganize myself. But I need, when I've decided to go and see Imi, it's because I can't work that all out myself in that moment, and touch and certain types of movement and the environment. I really like what Imi does and where she works, and that really works for me. It doesn't feel like just a passive receiving of something. That is lovely, but it also helps me work out quite a lot of stuff for myself of how to get myself out of a pickle, whatever that might be. And the other,
sorry, just something you said there which interested me. I think you said, and where she works.
Yes.
What do you say?
Have you ever been to Imi's?
No, but I think that's a really interesting, curious thing to say, because it's not just therefore that this Matt Lowe, again, I'm just thinking of, we was talking about the environment and everything, and I've got to think past it, but you're suggesting the environment is an important factor in the treatment as well as what Imi's actually doing to you.
It is, and I love it. You drive up to Imi's room is in a sort of trading estate, isn't it, Imi? And you drive up, and you
think, oh my! I always think clients must think, oh my God, what is this? Because it's not glamorous at all.
No, the first impression is, oh, have I got the right place? And then you walk in, and I describe the way Imi's kitted it out. I describe as an old-fashioned apothecary. She's got cabinets with books and little interesting things on them, masses of plants everywhere, the most beautiful bed coverings, and it doesn't feel like luxury spa, furry blankets and marble. It feels interesting and cozy, and it makes me feel curious. It sparks my curiosity, and that I'd say the same with the treatment that you receive from Imi as well. It sparks your curiosity about yourself and your body and what's going on in your head.
That's such an interesting way of putting it. sparking curiosity in yourself, because it is lovely, because it shows how the treatment is not having something just done to you that's going to change you. It's part of affecting you to manage yourself and to think, which is, you know,
it ties back into that Imi is bringing awareness to me of myself.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I went to see Joe,
we're just in a love up conversation.
So, you know, when you have motivational interview, when you see a therapist, they will use maybe words to draw from you, rather than, they don't do to you, they don't tell you what you should feel and what you should do. They draw it from you, and they might use words. Whereas, you know, with a massage like appointments, so right from when you come in, that context and the touch and the movement and the maybe some words, the conversations you might have around things, and that it allows people to find within themselves maybe what they were looking for, rather than, you know, I'm going to change this and do that. It's just, I hate this phrase really, but holding space. You're giving people the opportunity to think about things and be curious and notice, or not think about things for other people, and to step outside their busy minds and their busy worlds. So yeah, it's just offering different context, I guess. Yeah.
Very good. I can't remember if it was yourself or Anna Maria, but it's just removing that word "just" from any senses with massage. They must never go together. Oh, it's just a massage. Where are you going? Just a massage. And we need to get rid of that.
Yeah. And I wonder, Joe, do we have a problem with looking after ourselves?
God, yes.
Yeah. I don't, you know, why is that? Why should we feel guilty, as you know, about taking proactive care of our health? And we know now, you know, that low level constant stress is really, really bad for us. And we know that, going back to the social thing, we know that lack of social interaction is really, really bad for us. You know, a lot of my clients are older, and for some of them, they don't get a lot of social interaction, and they definitely don't get any sort of touch. And so we know those things are so important, but we don't pay them as much attention as maybe what we put in our mouths or how much we move. But they are part of health. You know, that well-being is part of health. So it's valuing that more.
Yeah, and I think you could say it's definitely a healthcare professional thing, and you know, all the you know, I'm supposed to look after the people, not myself. But it's not just healthcare professionals. It's probably a bit of a British thing as well. But I mean, absolutely, yes, we have a problem with looking after ourselves, and definitely have a problem with talking about it to other people. But I think, you know, I often say when I'm trying to persuade healthcare professionals to look after themselves, I just get them to consider the message they're portraying to the clients in front of them. You know, I'm telling you all these things that you should do for yourself that will make you healthier and make you feel better. And look at me, I'm exhausted and worn out. And as opposed to, yeah, this person actually looks like they practice what they preach. You know, imagine if we did start just being much more open with our friends and family about how many massages we have, because it feels all the positive things that, you know, whatever it does for us, therefore give them permission to do that. If we just took the, I don't know, we seem to build up a whole lot of pressure around this idea of looking after ourselves, don't we, and a lot of judgment around it. What if we just dialed that down?
Yeah, being kinder to ourselves, and then we, you know, but by doing that, you're healthier, you're a nicer person, you're calmer.
The other bit that when I read your piece, Imi, I'm not sure if you were directly referring to this, but it made me think about conversations in healthcare generally, this idea of going back to the sort of family doctor scenario, not in some kind of sentimental Doc Martin way or for that reason, but people realizing that actually there's huge value in having somebody who sees you regularly enough to notice small changes and understand when you describe small changes in your health, whether that's a doctor or a soft tissue therapist or a physio or a podiatrist or whatever, just somebody who sees you quite regularly
Yeah.
and understands your language and how you normally appear.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've got clients that I've had longer than my children. And you see, yeah, if something's not right, or then, there's something up, and they come in, and the first, I don't know, I leave half an hour between appointments, so there's never that rush, and sometimes you just get that sense that people have got something to offload, and it's just like, it's fine, we'll start when we start. How's things? And then, like Matt says, you just stop and be quiet, and it comes out, and it's lovely to have that relationship with them, that they try. I'm very privileged to that they trust me, to say that, and that can inform then what we do when, on the table or what have you. And we
you're a
don't
good
we don't
referrer as
get
well.
that from the GP anymore, and it's not their fault. They can't provide that service. There's too many people and not enough of them, and they've got these 10-minute spots. But we can at least listen to people and validate people, and yeah, that's hugely valuable.
And in your case, then you make really sensible referrals off the back of it as well, often.
Yeah, if I, and I don't even suggest it, they usually end up saying something like, "I think I probably should do something about that." It's like, yeah, but and touch itself, I think we saw in, certainly in lockdown, the effects of that social isolation, whether that, we could still speak to people like this, on Zoom and what have you, but it's not the same as that, touch. And again, for a lot of older clients, they don't get that, and especially us Brits. I think it was in that David Linden book, Touch. They did. There was a study where they looked at people sat at cafe tables and how many times they sort of touched each other in the process of conversation. In France, in Italy, and in England, I think England was 0. So we don't necessarily, and in the world now where we might be working from home, we're on our computers a lot more. We're not getting that kind of interaction, and as a species, we need it.
And it's funny, isn't it? It's socially acceptable to take a pill or have an operation or receive a treatment for something that is troubling you, but it's not so okay to talk to somebody about it or to be touched to try and improve it.
And yet, what do we all crave? When we're sad, we want a hug. What's the thing that we do when all else fails? When someone is at the end of life, we might just hold their hand. There's touches. And there are studies, maybe not on people, but there's huge studies on sadly, rats and monkeys, where they, deprive them of touch with really quite horrible consequences. And we're mammals as well, and we have evolved to need social touch. So it's a really important thing to have that available for people, in a safe environment for people who might not otherwise get it.
Wow, that was illuminating, very important. So definitely, without a doubt, it's not always a luxury, Tristan. So there we go.
I
don't know that's exactly how you'd agree with everything.
Going with it.
But it's important because it's like so many people can say things like this on social media, and we know what they mean, but it's the people who are reading it, not necessarily the younger therapists, but the less exposed to humans therapists who doesn't understand the incredible variety out there, who take it the wrong way, and they jump to conclusions. So it's good that we have these conversations. I think you summed it up nicely, and what we've been saying today, with regards to massage not being a luxury. You wrote, and I'm quoting you here, "Someone much wiser than me recently said, we are now also scared of being that therapist who overtreats. We are actually far more often undertreating."
Yeah, that was Fran from Barefoot Clinic. Who
was
needs
it Fran? Okay, Fran Morgan.
Get out there and say more things. She says some amazing stuff. Yeah, I think we get embarrassed to say that we're massage therapists. There's so many. I'm sort of like, wannabe physios instead of proud to be massage therapists out there. And I think we need to, as a, you know, certainly as STTs and sports massage therapists and massage therapists, start actually being blinking proud of what we can offer and what we can do and what is evidenced. It's not necessarily the way that where we thought that evidence would be. It's psychosocial and neurological, but start being proud of what we can offer and the value that we can bring instead of being slightly embarrassed about it and moving straight on to the exercises. You know, that's what we are. If you don't want to be a massage therapist, don't do massage. Do something else. Go and train and be as a physiotherapist or be something else. But we need to be, I get, that's what my vent is, that's what my frustration is, that we're not like, yeah, no, do you know what? I'm proud of what I can offer. I bring value.
And the irony, Imi, I think you and I had this conversation early on in our coaching. You put physio in that sentence. Every single thing you just said holds true. You know, so the grass definitely isn't greener in the physio. We are all having the same internal battles, exactly the same. You know, not being quite sure what we're defined by anymore. The stuff, the first sentence that you said, absolutely true. You were taught certain stuff that doesn't hold up against the evidence anymore. But there is a different explanation for the things that you do. You don't have to chuck the baby out the bathwater every single time. You just have to not be threatened when the reasons why things are working or not working are not quite what you were taught at uni.
It's good, actually. I remember Jack Chu, you mentioned before. I think he did one of the first episodes, or second, third, and he was saying that it's exactly the same in every profession. Physiotherapists have this idea that they're kind of dropped out of medical school, didn't quite make it to that, and so they became a physio. And then the doctors, they're kind of, I'm not really a surgeon. And everybody, wherever you see it in there, kind of has this fear that they're not whoever is above them, not quite there. So here's a contrast.
We all play a valuable part. I think, you know, I've just started working with a physiotherapist, and that is so nice. Then you can see, I mean, maybe we just need to collaborate more. Then you can see kind of, oh God, here is where I slot in, and I bring something here and she brings something there, and we all bring value and we appreciate each other. You know, when I've spoken to Joe, or, you know, I think if we can collaborate and understand each other more, then maybe, yeah, we're all more similar than we think.
Wise words there. That wasn't Francesca Morgan, that was Imi Testa, just so everybody knows there. Right, okay, so we've definitely reached the end of the hour. Look, I'm keeping you longer than I said I would. What have you guys got coming up? Anything interesting coming up? Imi, what have you got coming up?
Yeah, so I've just, as I just said, I've started working with another Jo Crawley from Physio Avenue in Yeighton, South Gloucestershire, and we're working on a programme that's designed for people as they get older, to help support them to maintain mobility and strength and balance, so they can still do all the things that they need to do as we age. And she's actually going to be taking over my business come September, because I'm going to uni, and so I can just rock up and do my thing and go home.
What are you studying at university? For
people who don't know. Occupational therapy.
Okay, shout out for the OTs.
Yes, which Jo helped me decide which direction to go when I wasn't sure. Thank you.
Wonderful. And that's something directly for the public, is it?
The program, yes, yeah. Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, so you can put something in the notes. That might be something that therapists who are listening, clinicians might be interested if they're in this will be the South Gloucestershire area, something they could go along to. Okay, we'll make sure that link goes in the show notes. And that was in April, did you say?
Well, we're hoping to launch by the end of the summer before I go to uni. So
okay, fantastic. It's the 1st of April now, isn't it? I keep forgetting. We're already in April somehow. Don't know how that happened. Fantastic. Thank you, Imi. And Jo, what have you got coming up?
Joanne Elphinston and I have got the next session of Coaching Unpeeled, which is a 2-day course teaching coaching skills to clinicians. So it's for you to be able to use coaching skills in your clinical environment. That's the 16th and 17th of April. So we've got some space for that. You can still sign up for that if you want. And I personally am coming to the end with a couple of my one-to-one coaching clients. So if anybody is curious about having a chat about having one-to-one coaching, then yeah, drop me an email or message on LinkedIn, whatever.
Fantastic. we'll make sure links to all of that goes into the show notes. Wonderful. Right. So thank you so much for our part 1 of frustrations commonly felt by MSK clinicians. I like it because we've come up with some solutions as well, haven't we? We've come up with what's frustrating. We've looked at how to not be frustrated and the relevance of not being frustrated. So it's all been very positive. And we can continue this next week for people. Thank you for everyone who joined us live. Before I forget, sometimes I forget to thank you for your questions. We've got a wonderful testimonial for your website here. Imi Mansfield says, I drove 5 hours for a treatment with Imi and I'd do it again. Extraordinary balance of luxury, geekiness, safety and curiosity in a beautiful space filled with life. Felt like permission to relax.
Oh, thank you.
Stick that on your website.
Yeah, I just wrote down permission to relax. I'm stealing that. Thank you.
And then 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸, sorry if that's not the right pronunciation, has said, thanks for joining us, Davey Boy. Says, that's exactly the type of clinic room that I'd like. I think referring to yours, Imi. I have the idea of Sherlock Holmes' front room. There you go.
Yeah.
Description.
It's amazing. Imi, pop some pictures online of it because it really is. I don't think I'm more telling you how amazing it is and you just go,
I have typed it up recently. It was getting a bit too eclectic. I did tidy recently.
Violin in the corner. Right, okay, so fantastic. So like I said, next week we're going to continue this conversation of common frustrations. So if you listen to the podcast and you want to join us and just go along... Oh, no, not next week. No. It's Easter. We'll be back Tuesday, April the 14th. So skip next week. April the 14th, we'll be back on the Tuesday at 8 o'clock, back to Tuesday. And I'm going to be joined by my special guest, 𝐿𝐲, who a lot of people will know from the STA and from Therapy Show or Therapy Expo and also being on the podcast. And also Emily Gilbert, who likewise has been on the show, and they're going to talk about their common frustrations, which is going to revolve a lot around online courses and the problems with people coming out and calling themselves sports therapists and having done very little. And also how soft skills, why are they called soft skills? And when are we going to stop calling them soft skills? That's going to be the frustration shared by Carla and Emily. And then the week after, we're going to have Ben Cormack and Adam Meekins. I told you this was the year of collaboration. I'm having Adam Meekins on the show to talk about the Better Clinician Project because they're coming to Therapy Show in November. So I thought, right, this is the year of collaboration. Let's get them on the show. And when it comes to frustrations, it kind of works both ways. Adam Meekins is very frustrated and a lot of people get frustrated. So that'll be Adam and Ben on the show. I'm really looking forward to catching up with them. They're really nice. And also, I wish Adam all the best. I believe he's in hospital at the moment. I saw a post, unless it was an April Fool's. I'm hoping it's not an April Fool's. But if you are, if that is real, Adam, and I'm even doubting it, but April Fool's is weird once you get to 2026, and I hope you're well. Everything's okay. And then the week after, we'll be ending the month with Tristan Attenborough, who will be talking about why massage is just a luxury and how there's no such thing as good posture. So that'll be, and why we should be concentrating more on the bio. So that'll be with Tristan at the end of the month. No, I'm joking. Tristan Asper's going to be coming in. It's going to be a fantastic month of Tristan. We'll be talking about basically just the presentations I've seen with Tristan are amazing. We'll be talking about his frustration at how natural it is for humans just to have things like confirmation bias and how we can't really, I don't like saying this, we can't trust ourselves. We need to be aware of how our cognitive kind of biases are there. And this really creeps a lot into MSK healthcare. And once we're aware of that and we don't beat ourselves up about it, then we can do an awful lot more for the sake of the patient and our practice. So that's going to be a really nice bordering into philosophical conclusion to the month. But just for now, then I'd like to thank once more. Thank you, Imi Testa, owner of Back on Track Soft Tissue Therapy. Thanks, Imi.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for acknowledging my thanks to you. And Jo Turner, founder of 𝐸𝐸𝐸. Thanks for joining us, Jo.
Pleasure. Have a lovely Easter, you too, and everybody else.
It's true, and everyone else who celebrates it, have a great time. Enjoy your week off. And thank you, everyone, who joined us live. And hopefully, if you're around, you listen to the podcast, then join us in a couple of weeks, like I say, with 𝐿𝐸𝐸 and Emily Gilbert. Until then, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Bye-bye.